I was remembering as I read over the article that I did 10 years ago that you told me, it was on the evening of March 2nd, 1998, that Suzanne, who was then 19 and a sophomore at SUNY Albany, vanished without a trace after stepping off a bus from her part-time job at Crossgates Mall en route to her dorm room at SUNY Albany. And that 15 years later, you, her parents, Doug and Mary, are continuing to search for answers to what happened to your daughter. And I hope that by turning the clock back to that night, and all that has transpired since, the key things, that it would help to solve, this really frustrating, baffling, heartbreaking mystery, that this will be the year, the month, maybe even, that you could get the answers you have been searching for, waiting for all these years. And I kept thinking about how, you have helped so many other people since you co-founded the Center for Hope, Healing Our Painful Emotions. And has it been a decade now? Is it 10 years this year or 11?
I think it was year 2000.
Wow.
That we became official, you
That
mean?
we became official.
Before that, we were unofficial.
We're unofficial.
I mean, we did
Well, for a
a
couple
lot of the
years,
same things,
yeah.
but then we finally got
Yeah, 2000. So
our
it's been
status,
13 years.
our credibility. I guess that's part of what it
But
was,
part of-
establishing that credibility as an organization.
Well, part of what I wanted to talk about, as I said, was how the difference between now, today, even when I was lost in your hallway, but to hear Doug's calm, reassuring voice at the end of the phone, which you did not have, how much things have
Right.
changed, the things that you put in place, the things that still need, you think, to be put into place. But when you said to me in that interview, I never forgot it, you said two things that really hit me. You said that you are members of a club that nobody wants to belong to.
Yeah.
And also you talked about how the grieving, what you went through and how there is never any closure, how different it is from other types of losses. And so
Talk about that club for a minute.
yeah, let's talk about, I want you to talk about the club.
That we kind of revisit from time to time, and actually we're looking at that a little differently now, and kind of on a more positive thing, rather than kind of a punishment to belong to this club. It's really, in a way, it's kind of a privilege and an honor to be connected with. It's really kind of an extended family,
Yeah.
Okay.
And
rather than a club that nobody wants to belong. I mean, that's the reverse side of it,
actually,
Okay.
what happened was, we were at a meeting for Team Hope, and at the end of the meetings, they kind of talk about their, why they're there. Every person that belongs to Team Hope has had somebody missing in their lives, and then they become Team Hope members and talk to, other families who have somebody missing to comfort them. And they were all saying the same thing, this is a terrible thing. We're, here we are in this club nobody wants to belong to. And I'm sitting there hearing this from everybody, and finally I stood up and said, had I never belonged to this group, I never would have met all of you people. I have met people from all over the country. And these are people that I would have walked by in an airport or never talked to them. But here I am talking to wonderful people. You all have, you're all wonderful people. Unfortunately, you had a tragedy in your life.
You found the silver lining.
Yeah, and we found you.
Yeah, so that was helpful. I mean, that, when you talk about, this club, this, this painful, negative thing. I mean, that's not. I guess one of the things we try to do is, just to be as positive as we can and put a positive spin on things that you can look at as being negative and painful. And,
well, is it easier? I mean, 10 years later, to see maybe the positive. Some of the things might have been there. You were getting a little tiny glimmer because you were then so new to the Center for Hope and everything 10 years ago when we did this first story. But these other people, as you said, now your eyes have been open too to
Right.
say, I would never have met this person, been able to help these people, also, and they've helped you.
Absolutely.
What are some of the ways that you have been helped by your involvement with the others who have lost a loved one, or a loved one has just disappeared?
Well, go ahead.
Just a comforting, looking forward to going to a meeting, and we meet a couple of times a year. We see these people a couple of times a year, and just looking forward to saying, wow, I'm going to see Vicky from Oregon, or, somebody who lives in North Carolina. I'm going to see these people who I never would have met these people. I would have been in my own little world in Boston Spa, and just keep moving along. And not that I'm saying that the situation that brought us together was a real tragedy, but we've met so many wonderful people, and that's just the way I feel.
I think it's the connection to the bonding at it, and that really, and I never believed this until this happened to us, that it's one of those situations where you really have to be there. I mean, you have to have had to experience this to really have that almost, I don't know, some sort of connection with the other person.
Right.
Because we had so many people tell us.
Well, you do. You have almost like a spiritual connection.
It almost is a spiritual thing.
Almost like
you can't define on a feeling level or spiritual level.
That unless someone else has gone through it, they can't really understand. I mean, isn't that also when Bill Wilson founded AA?
Exactly.
Right.
A tremendous connection.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's similar in a way.
Similar in a way. Okay. Okay.
So
well,
it's. I think that's
What about the stages of grief? Because I'm thinking again that when parents lose a child, the child dies, and then they have the wake and the funeral, and the stages of grief.
It's a resolve, and
A resolve rather than a closure.
A resolve rather than a closure. And most families will say that they really hate when the media comes out and says closure, because closure is not something that we ever have. I mean, even if Suzanne came back tomorrow, she's been gone for 15 years. I don't know what happened to her for the last 15 years, and I've been going through hell for the last 15 years.
Doesn't erase everything that's happened.
It doesn't erase
that,
and you could say, wow, she's back, we finally have closure here. We don't. We have resolve.
You never get the time back.
You'll never get the time back, that you have had when you've lost this person. So I really don't like that word. And I know that I've talked to many families.
Let's talk about that for a minute. We've in connection with a lot of families, or quite a few families who have had someone missing and they were found deceased. And some people could say, okay, well, done, over, now you can kind of go on. But at least in two cases that were from the general area, one is young man, Josh Sostak from Albany. He was down in Albany with some friends, and they were, celebrating or whatever.
Right.
And got separated from his friends, and was missing for months, right? Because I don't think they located
He went
him
missing
until
just before
May.
Christmas, and they found him in, I think May,
May, something like that.
May.
So he was
Okay.
so, I mean, in one sense, they do have, I guess, and I always see closure as kind of this circular thing, where a lot of different things have to fall into place to have it be called closure, where all questions are answered and, you can kind of put everything to rest. But so all they know is one tiny piece, that resolution piece, that he's no longer living.
So resolution.
So at least they don't have to go on looking for him. But what they don't know is what happened to him.
They still don't know that.
No.
No.
And how did he end up in the Hudson River as a quote unquote drowning victim when he was in downtown Albany and ended up when they found him, when they did the post-mortem, they found out that he had a 0.12 alcohol level.
So it's high.
So, but for a young man, I mean, he was 21.
He was a big kid. He was not a small boy.
I mean, that's not a whole lot of,
No.
that's not enough alcohol to explain him going down to the, like the Port of Albany or wherever he ended up, and I'm wandering off a dock or a pier, and then as a drowning victim.
Is
Okay.
that
His
case
car was-
considered closed, or is that an
It's closed.
ongoing investigation?
It's
Oh,
Closed.
Okay.
As far as the police are concerned,
Mhm.
because they, at that many months later, there's not going to be much that shows up
But
anyway.
maybe not closed as far as his family and loved
No,
ones
because
are
they
concerned.
don't believe. Like, I have real questions as to
Mhm.
if that's what happened to him. I just don't see someone like that with 2 or 3 beers in him going down and wandering off a dock.
Highly
down the
Will
suspicious.
his
Hudson River.
family be at the missing persons day?
They're usually there.
Okay.
Um,
What about the family of Craig Freer? I remember he went missing around the same time as Susie, did he not? He
a
was
little later.
He was tall and athletic
Yep.
build, and he vanished, I believe, in Burn Hills. Is he still
Scotia.
missing?
Still missing. So they're kind of in the same boat that we are
Okay.
as far as not having any answers. So that was one of those kind of unexplained disappearances that kind of poof
Okay.
vanished. I was retired
Okay.
then. Yeah, we were out. We were headed out to visit with my son, who lived in Lake George at the time. So we were headed out the door when we got the call, and it was one of you forget that where you're emotionally you're kind of in a you're in a shock situation where something hits you and you feel like you've been hit over the head with a
So what time of the day? It was in the morning?
yeah.
About when, like 10 o'clock?
Yeah, around 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that.
And were you contacted by the police or by the college or by a friend,
It was
roommate?
Rich, Susie's boyfriend.
Well, can we go back to the morning you received the call? Because, I mean, when you got the call that morning, what were the very first reaction and what were the first questions that the two of you had? Because I'm surprised that you weren't notified by either the police or
It's just because there
Because
is some.
the time that Suzanne was believed to have gone missing was what time in the evening on March 2nd?
9:45 around there.
9:45. Okay.
That was when the bus returned to the campus.
Okay. And you got your call almost 12 hours then later?
Yeah, the following morning. Yeah.
From Suzanne's boyfriend.
Right.